The world begins not with noise, but with breath. London in the year 1790 does not wake all at once. It stirs. Before the bells, before the rattling wheels, before the market crows cry out, the city lies under a blanket of grey. The fog is thick along the Thames, clinging to rooftops, drifting low through alleyways, swirling around chimneys and steeples like a restless ghost. It is a damp fog, not heavy, but alive. It beads on windows, soaks into door frames, and slips through the cracks of thin walls. It has the smell of coal smoke, river water, and iron. Most of the city is still asleep, but not all. In the crooked lanes between Cheapside and Clerkenwell, a faint glow flickers behind shutters. A boy wakes in a garret room, his blanket thin and his breath visible. He pulls on stiff boots, the leather still damp from the day before, and tiptoes past his siblings curled on the floor. There's no fire yet. There might not be one today. Outside, the cobblestones glisten with the night's rain. Small puddles reflect the faintest amber light of the dying gas lamps. Tall iron posts topped with glass lanterns, still glowing from the night's watch. Soon the lamplighter will come again, ladder in hand, to extinguish each one with a practised reach. The air tastes of soot. Coal fires still burn in the city's thousands of hearths, though most are embers now, grey with ash. The chimneys that loom above every building, narrow, crooked, blackened, release lazy curls of smoke into the heavy dawn. You can hear the city before you can see it. A single bell tolls from a nearby chapel, not urgent, not for morning, just to mark the hour. 4 o'clock perhaps, or 5. Time here is not counted precisely, not for most. It's told by bells, sun, shadow, and the opening of shutters. The baker's boy is up now, dusting flour onto the work table. His fingers move slowly, sleepily, shaping the first loaves while the coals crackle in the oven. Somewhere above the bakery his master still sleeps, but the boy has learned to work quietly. Too much noise, and he'll be cuffed. A milk cart rolls past the corner of Whitecross Street, a wooden wheel creaking against uneven stones. The cart's handles slick with dew. A woman walks beside it, wrapped in a shawl. She carries a pail in each hand, sloshing gently with warm milk drawn from the countryside hours before. In a shadowed courtyard off Aldersgate, a washerwoman kneels beside a wooden tub. She wrings out damp linen with red, cracked hands. Her arms ache. She started before the sky lightened. The water is cold. Her breath rises in small clouds with each pull. The city stirs. The soundscape of London begins to build slowly. Not a cacophony, not yet, but a layering of rhythms. The soft slap of laundry against stone, a broom sweeping coal dust from a doorstep, the iron hinge of a stable door yawning open, hooves clopping distantly on a side street, murmurs behind thin walls, a cough, a sigh, a child's first cry. In the distance the Thames flows on, dark, wide and unbothered. Its surface is smooth this morning, save for the slow churn of river barges. A coal lighter creaks at its moorings near Blackfriars. Nearby, a barge-master ties off a rope with practised hands, wiping the mist from his brow. On the banks, scavengers begin to gather. Mudlarks, boys and girls no older than 10, search the retreating tide for pins, nails, coins, anything the city may have dropped during the night. Their clothes are thin, their toes black with cold, but they are quiet, focused, efficient. Up in the lanes above the river, shopkeepers begin to rattle open their wooden shutters. They swing out into the street with a creak and a thud, letting the grey light in. A fishmonger lays ice in a tin basin. A butcher sharpens his cleaver against a stone. A pie seller prepares her handcart, copper trays warming under a heavy cloth. And yet, the mood is still gentle, still hushed. London, at this hour, belongs not to its rulers or scholars or merchants, but to those who do not speak loudly, those who begin their work without fanfare, the invisible ones. The streets are not yet crowded, but here and there figures move like smoke between buildings. A girl with a coal scuttle, a man in a wool cap lighting a tobacco pipe, a boy pushing a wheelbarrow filled with kindling and broken chair legs. Their names are not recorded. They leave no letters, no portraits, no inheritance, but they are the ones who move the city forward. The air remains cold, damp, heavy, but not harsh. There's a softness to it in these early hours. The fog, still low and silvery, diffuses the light into a kind of permanent dusk. Even the rich, asleep behind shuttered windows on Bedford Square or in the townhouses of Mayfair, are unaware of this beauty. They sleep through it, and by the time they rise, the spell will have lifted. The streets will be crowded. The noise returned, but for now there is still grace. A man walks alone down Fleet Lane, his coat patched at the elbows. He hums a song, not loudly, just enough for the tune to hang in the fog like thread. Behind him, the glow of a baker's window grows stronger. Another hearth has been lit. Another kettle placed to boil. The rhythm continues. A pair of crossing sweepers, small boys with bundles of rags, begin their post near the intersection. They nod to one another, set their brooms aside for a moment, and sit on the edge of the pavement. They chew crusts of bread and watch the mist drift across the street. They say nothing. There is no need. The city wakes slowly. If you walk slowly enough and stay near the river, you will find them. They are already there, barefoot, half hidden in the mist that clings to the banks of the Thames. The tide has receded just enough to reveal a narrow margin of glistening mud, pitted and slick, scattered with fragments, broken clay pipes, rusted nails, chips of porcelain, bits of bone, cloth, rope, coal. The river leaves its offerings behind each morning, and there are always hands to receive them. They are small hands, boys and girls no older than 10, though some barely 6, dressed in threadbare coats too large for their frames. Some wear no coats at all. Their tunics hang loose over sharp shoulders. Their feet are blackened with grime and raw from the chill of the water. They are mudlarks, not thieves, not beggars, though many will become one or the other before long. They are scavengers, the unofficial collectors of London's forgotten things, and their workplace is this stretch of wet, foul-smelling riverbank beneath the stone arches of Blackfriars and London Bridge. They do not speak loudly, their eyes are sharp, their fingers nimble. A pin is a prize, a bent spoon, a miracle, a twisted nail, a morning's wage. One girl crouches near the edge of the embankment, her knees sunken into the muck. She has found a fragment of blue and white china, smooth, oval, no bigger than her thumb. She wipes it on her sleeve and places it gently into a pouch tied to her belt. No expression, just the next thing. Behind her, a boy digs with a flat stick through a heap of riverweed. He uncovers a brass buckle, green with tarnish, and holds it up toward the weak morning light. A small sound of satisfaction escapes his lips, but he says nothing. The others may see, and prizes are easily taken. A barge groans past in the channel, churning the river into low waves. The children retreat a few steps, watchful, then return to their search. They know this tide, they know its moods, and they know they must work quickly. Soon the mud will disappear again, swallowed by the river's rise. Further inland, in the narrow lanes that slope toward the water, other children begin their morning work, not by the river, but by the street. They are gutter boys. London's gutters are open, shallow troughs carved into the sides of its cobbled streets. Waste runs freely through them. Rainwater, chamber pot refuse, horse dung, soot, food scraps. At best, it is unpleasant. At worst, it is a health hazard. And yet, it must be cleaned. Boys with brooms and rags begin their rounds at dawn. They are not employed officially. They are not paid on schedule. Their earnings come in the form of pennies, tossed to them by wealthier passers-by who wish not to dirty their shoes. In muddy crossings, they sweep clear a dry path and hold out their hands. Some give, most do not. But still the boys sweep. Their brooms are made of bundled sticks wrapped with wire or cloth. They are soaked from the start. The boys bend low, moving filth from the walkways into the channels, their faces close to the stones. Their knees are stained black, their noses drip, their hands are raw. One boy pauses to rub his palms together, trying to bring warmth back. He's lost a glove, or perhaps never had one. A cart rattles past, splashing muck onto his trousers. He says nothing. He wipes it off. He moves on. These children are part of the city, like the bricks, the fog, the rats. They belong to no school, no guild. They are not recorded in ledgers or mentioned in sermons, but without them, the streets would drown in filth. Without them, the river would swallow what it is not meant to keep. And so, they work. Nearby, a chimney sweep's boy enters the day's first house. He carries a bundle of rods wrapped in cloth. The doorway is narrow, the stairs are steep. He's been here before. The housemaid recognises him, nods once, then returns to scrubbing the hearth. He removes his boots, already worn through at the soles, and steps into the flue. The soot coats his skin within seconds. It clings to his eyelashes, lines the creases of his neck. His body is thin, made thin by necessity, and he climbs, rod in hand, scraping the inside of the chimney as he goes. Every inch matters. Every clean sweep, a coin. But it is dangerous. Chimneys collapse, fires smoulder, air grows thin, and many boys do not return. He knows this, they all do, but the climb pays more than the street, and he has younger siblings at home who rely on whatever he can bring. By the time he emerges, coughing, hair blackened, eyes rimmed red, the sun has barely risen past the rooftops. A penny is pressed into his hand. He thanks them with a nod and leaves. There are 4 more houses on his list before noon. Back on the riverbank, the tide has begun to rise. The mudlarks move higher on the slope, their buckets filled with fragments. Some may take their findings to a rag and bone man on Tooley Street. Others will go straight to the market, holding up their goods to stall-keepers, hoping for a few halfpence. Sometimes they are chased away, sometimes they are ignored, but sometimes someone buys. A rusty hinge, a shard of mirror, a broken comb, all are worth something to someone. In an alley behind Thames Street, a group of boys huddle around a small fire, just coals really, cradled in a tin basin. They warm their hands, share crusts of bread, say little. One has a bruise under his eye. No one asks about it. They speak in gestures, in looks, in shared silence. Their day is only half begun. As the city above them bustles, merchants setting out wares, ladies stepping into carriages, clerks unlocking shop doors, these boys slip between corners, down side alleys, into back stairwells, always moving, always watching for opportunity. And all the while, London watches without seeing them. Its windows look down on their movements without recognition. Its wealth is built on their quiet labour. Its streets are passable because of their hands. Its fires burn clean because they climb the chimneys. Its banks remain unclogged because they dug in the sludge. And yet, when evening comes, they will disappear again. Into the cracks, into doorways, into beds made of wood crates and old rags. The world will go on. But beneath the carriages and cobblestones, the city belongs to them. Not all labour is loud. Some of it is folded in steam, hung in silence, borne on backs through streets that never stop moving. While the children search the riverbank and chimney flues, another rhythm beats through the city, deeper, heavier, slower. It begins in the courtyards and washhouses. Here, in the shared stone alleys between homes, the washerwomen rise with the light. They do not wait for bells or permission. They move like clockwork, aprons tied, sleeves rolled, tubs filled. The water is cold at first, drawn from public pumps or rain barrels, poured into large wooden vats. Fires are stoked beneath iron cauldrons, sending up smoke that smells faintly of ash and linen. And then the work begins. The sound of the wash is not loud, it is rhythmic, soothing in its way. The slap of fabric against stone, the slow churn of arms plunging into water, the creak of ringers, ropes and wooden benches, steam rising like incense around stooped backs and raw hands. Their fingers are red, their nails short, their palms toughened. Soap is harsh, water is unkind, but they keep moving, their sleeves soaked to the elbow, their breath catching as steam clings to their skin. This is not romantic work. It is not women's duty as sung in parlour songs. It is work that aches in the shoulders, stiffens in the joints, and leaves no time for rest. Many of these women clean not only their own linens, but those of wealthier households. Some are paid, some are bartered, but most do it because someone must. They carry baskets piled with clothing, men's shirts stained with sweat, petticoats heavy with soot, baby linens yellowed and stiff. Everything must be scrubbed, boiled, rinsed, wrung out, and hung to dry. In back alleys, the air fills with a kind of choreography. Ropes strung between buildings sag with the weight of wet cloth. Shirts flap gently in the wind, sheets ripple like sails, and women move between them, hanging, shifting, adjusting clothespins with practised fingers. Children watch from windows. Infants sleep in crates near the wall. A small dog noses through a dropped rag, sniffing the soap. The washerwomen speak little. They may mutter to one another, share news, grumble about weather or wages, but mostly they work. Their silence is not grim. It is simply the silence of concentration, the kind that builds over years of repetition, a a quiet that is familiar rather than lonely. Elsewhere in the city, another kind of labour is underway. At Billingsgate and Covent Garden, market porters begin their routes. They are broad-shouldered, apron-wrapped, and soot-stained from the morning fog. Their breath puffs like steam from draught animals as they hoist baskets, crates and barrels across uneven pavement. One man carries a barrel of pickled herring, brine dripping from the edge. Another balances a wide tray of root vegetables, turnips, carrots, onions still heavy with soil. A third hauls bundles of firewood wrapped in coarse twine. Their feet are steady, their backs bowed, their route known. The market hands do not pause. They walk between delivery boats and shop stalls, between warehouses and kitchens, between bakeries and butchers, tailors and taverns. Their cargo shifts depending on the day: coal, cloth, bottles, bones. But the movement is constant. A fishmonger grunts as he lifts a tub of eels from the river landing. He pours them into a stall's basin, where they writhe for a moment, then settle. His hands are cold. His apron is stiff with salt and scale. Beside him, a girl with braided hair stacks loaves of bread onto a wooden cart. She tucks a cloth around them to keep the crust warm. Her sleeves are white but smudged. She doesn't speak as customers begin to gather. Further down, a grocer's assistant arranges apples by size, the smallest in front, the reddest at the top. He wipes each with the corner of his sleeve, his breath fogging the fruit before the sun rises high enough to burn it off. There is pride in these movements, not spoken, not shown, but present. Not pride in wealth or recognition, for there is little of either, but pride in function, in being useful, in being part of the machinery that turns the city from fog to firelight each day. Some of these market workers live above the stalls, others sleep on the floor behind the counter. A few come from the outskirts of town, their legs sore by the time they arrive. They carry their weariness in silence. In a baker's shop near Shoreditch, a young man kneads dough with slow, practised rhythm. The table is floured, the dough smooth. His fingers move as if in sleep. The oven behind him radiates heat, a dry, clean warmth that cuts through the morning damp. He shapes the loaves, arranges them on boards, and slides them into the oven with a long-handled peel. He does not look up. The fire crackles. The first scent of bread begins to curl beneath the doorway. Down the lane, a man unloads a crate of dried herbs, rosemary, thyme, bay leaves. He lays them out on a cloth to dry further, their scent sharp and clean. A neighbour walks by and nods. The man says nothing, just continues sorting stalk from leaf. These workers, washerwomen, porters, apprentices, hands, are the invisible scaffolding of London. They don't write poetry or lead parades. They don't sit for portraits or give speeches, but they hold up the city with every gesture. The woman who folds the laundry that warms a child's skin, the man who carries the basket that feeds a household, the boy who turns the dough that becomes tomorrow's meal. They are not praised, not recorded in history books, but their presence is felt in every warm hearth and filled bowl across the capital. By mid-morning the streets begin to swell. Shoppers appear, carriages clatter, vendors shout. But even in this rising tide of noise, the quiet workers remain steady. A washerwoman ducks through the crowd with a wrapped bundle of linens. A market boy weaves between horses with a tray of eggs. The grocer wipes sweat from his brow and opens another barrel of salt pork. They do not stop. They do not ask for notice. They simply endure. And as the bells begin to ring in the distance, marking the passage of time for those who can afford to care, these quiet hands return to their tasks. They are the backbone of the city, folded in silence, pressed into labour, and strong enough to carry London on their shoulders. By midday the city has found its pulse. The fog has lifted, the sun hangs high, though still pale, and the streets are alive. Not with chaos exactly, not like the clangour of a festival or the cries of a riot, but with something steadier, familiar, a kind of urban heartbeat that quickens but never loses its rhythm. And in the centre of that rhythm, the street. It is not just a road. It is a workplace, a theatre, a canvas of endless human movement, painted in dust and footprints. On any given London street in the late 18th century, one will find the same characters. Not by name, for names are rarely known, but by type, by sound, by smell, by shape against the sun. Here is the cobbler. He sits just outside a narrow shop front, little more than a wooden bench, a leather apron and a wooden stool. His tools are simple, awls, knives, needles and thread thick as twine. He does not call out. He doesn't need to. His work is on display. He holds a shoe in his lap, worn, cracked, bent at the sole. He drives a peg into place with gentle taps. Tap, 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 a rhythm all his own. A beat passed from father to son to apprentice, unchanged by time. Behind him, his shop smells of polish and hide. Rows of worn boots hang on nails. Some will be sold, some never claimed. He works in silence, occasionally glancing up at passing feet. He watches how the soles wear, how the heels crack. Every shoe tells a story. Across the street, a crossing sweeper makes his rounds. He is small, no more than 10, with a broom of bundled reeds and a cap pulled low over his brow. His job is unofficial, but understood. When someone of means approaches, he steps into the road and clears a path across the filth. The street, after all, is no clean place. It is a slurry of mud, refuse, horse droppings, coal soot and spilled ale. But with a few careful sweeps, he makes a space wide enough for polished boots and silk-trimmed hems. He then holds out his hand. Sometimes a coin drops into it, sometimes nothing. He does not beg, not directly. He offers a service, but the exchange depends on charity more than obligation. When not sweeping, he lingers near his corner, watching passers-by. He knows the regulars, the butcher's wife, the vicar's daughter, the man with the brass buttons who never looks down. He knows the best hours, the generous faces, the ones who smile without giving. Not far from him, a street seller calls out, "Hot pies! Hot mutton pies!" His voice rings above the crowd, practised and strong. He carries a shallow tray strapped to his neck, lined with small round pies wrapped in brown paper. The crust is flaky, the filling uncertain, but the smell is good, and the warmth welcome. He walks in slow loops, stopping when someone waves him over. The exchange is quick. A coin, a nod, a pie. And then he moves on, voice lifting again. "Hot pies, fresh today." Next comes the flower girl. A cluster of heather in one hand, a nosegay of violets in the other. Her dress is faded, but she has arranged her basket with care. Green stems tucked beneath folded cloth, petals misted with water to keep them fresh. She does not shout, she murmurs, offers, hopes. Sometimes she sells to lovers, sometimes to innkeepers who tuck her flowers into a vase by the door. But mostly she is passed by. Beauty in this place is not always a priority. Then there's the knife grinder. He pushes a cart with a stone wheel affixed to the top. A jug of water drips slowly onto the stone. When someone calls him over, a cook, a butcher, a seamstress with scissors, he stops and begins his work. The wheel spins, the blade kisses the stone, sparks fly briefly, silently in the daylight, and then a coin, a nod, and he pushes on. All along the street other sellers cry their wares. "Fine fresh rhubarb! Eels alive, ho! Pins and needles! Shoe blacking, 3 for a penny." Their voices rise like gulls, wheeling through the air, blending and fading as the wind shifts. It is a chorus made not for performance, but survival. Behind them, in the shadows of alleyways and doorways, other figures move. A woman with a tin kettle, offering tea from a roadside stove. A man with a tray of tin spoons and broken buttons. A boy with a sign reading "Errand Runner, quick and honest." Some make enough to eat, others just enough to keep walking. There is motion everywhere, but the city does not feel hurried. It is full, yes, but not frantic. People pass by on foot, in carts, on horseback. Some carry parcels, some lead dogs, some stop to speak, others keep their heads low. Above it all, on the balconies of wealthier homes, ladies watch from shaded windows. Gentlemen stand with pipes, reading broadsheets, glancing below, but they do not see, not truly. To them, the street is a stage, a blur, a necessary in-between from house to theatre, shop to garden. The hawkers and sweepers are background, the sellers and grinders part of the scenery, but if one lingers, if one walks slowly, the truth emerges. This stage is real. The cobbler's fingers bleed, the pieman's feet ache, the flower girl's eyes burn from lack of sleep. The sweep keeps a coin in his cheek to hide from thieves. Each gesture, each step is survival. They move with grace, not because they are performers, but because repetition has made their movements elegant. And yet, none of them are remembered. Their names are lost, their voices unrecorded, their trades passed down or swept away like dust in the gutter. But here, now, in this moment, they are the city, not the ones who plan it, own it, or change it, but the ones who carry it on their backs street by street. And as the day wears on, as the bells toll from distant churches and the market crowds begin to thin, these street people remain. They sweep, they shine, they hammer, they sing, and when the sun begins to dip behind the rooftops, they gather their tools, wrap their wares, count their coins, and prepare to vanish once more into the night. The light has begun to dim, the shadows lengthen, and once again the city prepares to rest. Evening in Georgian London does not arrive suddenly. It slides in gradually, like the tide returning to a low riverbank. The rooftops take on a bluish hue. The windows, once bright and glinting, grow dull and reflective. The golden haze of late-day sun softens the edges of stone walls, alley corners, and chimney stacks. And then, almost imperceptibly, the gaslights begin to glow. One by one they are awakened, not by magic, not by machine, but by the steady hands of men with long poles and short ladders. The lamplighters. Their silhouettes move quietly down the cobbled streets. No parade, no announcement. Just a man with a smudged cap and a satchel of supplies, pausing at each iron post. He carries a long hooked rod, a wick lighter at the end, and a practised rhythm. Lift, light, close, walk. At each corner, he climbs or reaches, flicks open the glass frame of the lantern, strikes a spark, and ignites the small gas flame within. The light flickers, catches, holds. It is not bright, not piercing, but it is enough. Enough to mark the path, enough to chase away complete darkness, enough to remind the city that someone, somewhere, is still tending the edges. On foggy nights the glow seems to float in the mist, halos suspended in thick air. On clear nights, it twinkles between window panes and puddles, reflected in slick stones and shop signs. The lamplighter does not linger. He moves on, turning corners, disappearing into side lanes, his steps lost beneath the growing quiet. Meanwhile, the city itself begins to hush. The cries of the pie sellers fade. The last errand boys head home, coin in hand or empty-pocketed. The butcher sweeps bone dust from his doorway. A lone woman wraps up her laundry line, tugging frozen cloth from the rope. A man in a heavy coat locks his stall and sets a wedge of wood behind the wheel of his cart. A dog barks once from behind a gate. A church bell marks the hour, slow and deep. Inside homes candles are lit. Some flicker behind thick drapes. Others glow openly in cracked glass windows. In the finer houses, sconces reflect their light across polished hallways. In the humbler ones, the flame dances beside a single cup, a tin plate, or a bowl of thin soup. In attic rooms and cellar spaces, families gather close. A mother removes a child's boots, setting them near the embers. A boy pokes at a tiny fire with a length of iron rod. A girl ties string around a cracked doll's wrist. A man leans against the wall, his shoulders slack. No one speaks much. There is not much to say. Dinner has come and gone, if there was enough to call it that. Bread, a wedge of cheese, a heel of pie, tea, if lucky, weak ale, if not. And now comes the firelight hour, the time when bodies fold into corners, when eyes grow heavy, when the city's breath becomes soft and slow. The streets are still not empty. Some move through them still, messengers, midwives, drunks, watchmen, and others work the night, nightmen clearing cesspits, watch patrols with staves, a clerk or two hurrying home under coat and candle. But for the most part, London has begun to sleep. In a boarding house near the dock, 6 men lie on mattresses of straw side by side. Their boots are lined up at the door, their breath rising in rhythm. One coughs in his sleep, another dreams, mouth open. In a garret above a dressmaker's shop, 3 girls huddle beneath one quilt. The eldest has her arm draped protectively over the youngest. Their cheeks are pale, their faces still. In an almshouse near Clerkenwell, an old woman sits by the hearth, eyes closed, hands folded in her lap. The fire has burned down to faint red coals. She does not open her eyes. Even the animals have found rest. A cat curls near a chimney flue, its tail twitching once. A horse lowers its head in a stable, snorting softly. Pigeons roost beneath eaves, silent for now. And high above it all, above the ash-filled chimneys and crooked rooftops, the sky hangs clear. The stars do not flicker as they do in the countryside. The air here is too thick. But a few brave lights remain visible, blinking between soot and smoke. The city dreams beneath them. Dreams of warmth, of food, of dry socks, of a quieter life. Dreams of cobblestones that are soft and rivers that do not stink. Dreams of mothers and fathers and brothers and beds. Dreams of clean clothes and unbroken boots. None of these dreams are written down. None will be preserved in marble or ink. But they are real as any poem, any law, any palace. The lamplighter finishes his route. He turns homeward, hands blackened, feet sore. He will wake before the sun tomorrow and extinguish what he has lit. That is his duty, to carry the light into the night, and to carry it back again when the day returns. London sleeps, and under its sleep lies all the weight of its unseen people, its bent backs, chapped fingers, soot-lined lungs and quiet mouths. Not praised, not recorded, but essential. And now, at last, the final shutters close. The final broom is laid down. The final sigh is breathed. And silence returns, not empty, but full of everything that came before, and the city rests. So should you.